If you want to get more detail in the foregrounds of your night photos, you are in the right place. I'm Austin James Jackson, professional landscape photographer based in southern Utah. In today's video, we're talking about how to do a blue hour blend. For those of you that aren't familiar, a blue hour blend is a technique that involves taking a shot during the blue hour, which is the time just after sunset or just before sunrise, and you're going to blend that with a night photo that you've taken of the night sky. Now, this is in contrast to doing it the normal one shot way or stacking way that a lot of people do. And when you do it this way with your night photos, you will have a foreground that's really dark and it's going to be really noisy. There's not going to be a lot of detail in there. So using this blue hour blend will give you a little bit more detail in the foreground. It's going to look a lot better in my opinion. Now, there's a lot of reasons why you might want to do this. If you're using a star tracker, you have to do this. I suspect that's why many of you are here today watching this video. But even if you're not using a star tracker, this is still a technique that I would recommend doing. Now, regardless, pay close attention to the focal length of your lens. You want to make sure that the sky portion of your image or the Milky Way or whatever it is, that focal length should be pretty close to the focal length of your blue hour shot. If it's not, the blend is just not going to look realistic. Let's go ahead and jump right in. I'm in the Lightroom. I'll show you guys how I bring it over into Photoshop and then blend it together. Two images I'm going to be using, I shot on the same night. I've got this Milky Way here. I shot this tracked photo. It's about, I think, 8 minutes or 4 minutes. I'm sorry, it's 4 minutes. And then I've got this foreground image. This is normally right where the Milky Way appears. So this will work perfectly. It'll look totally realistic. I'm not going to get into the ethics of it and where you should and shouldn't blend your Milky Way. Me personally, I only keep my Milky Way where it actually would appear. So I'm just trying to overcome a limitation of the camera. I'm not trying to create something that is unreal or would never happen, but I'm not going to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. You can decide for yourself. Essentially, what I want to do, first thing, the only thing that you want to do before you blend it, don't get into adjusting the exposure or colors or anything like that. All that you want to do is check these two boxes, remove chromatic aberration and enable profile corrections. Make sure your lens populates down here. Your image should change or it should remove the vignetting a little bit when you do that. You'll then click on your Milky Way photo. You're going to do these same two boxes, and that is all. Then you can go ahead and start to blend these. Select both images. So with one selected, hold Command on a Mac, Control on a PC, select both of them, right-click, and go to Edit In, and go to Open as Layers in Photoshop. You want to make sure to not use the option on the top where it says Edit in Photoshop 2024 or whatever you're watching this in. If you do that, then it's going to load your two images as separate files. You're going to have to bring them together. It just adds another unnecessary step. It's another spot to trip yourself up and fall into a hole and get confused. So make sure you select Open as Layers so it opens both of them as layers straight into Photoshop. Now they're open here in Photoshop. What I like to do is put my blue hour shot, my foreground layer, up on top, have my Milky Way on the bottom. Now, hopefully your blue hour shot is simple. You have a nice hard edge like I have here on this rock. If you have a lot of trees, the blend can become really difficult and really challenging. There's ways to do it. I'm not going to talk about all those advanced techniques in today's video. I'm just going to show you how you do it with an image like this one where the blend is relatively easy. I'm going to go ahead and grab my quick selection tool. You can hit W on the keyboard if you can't find it. And then I'm going to do plus, and I'm going to click and drag on the foreground just like that. You can see how easily that snaps. Now this is just creating a selection. So when I go over here and apply a layer mask just like that, it will cut the sky out. And then it'll show what's behind it, which is this Milky Way layer. So it worked perfectly. Now all I need to do is move my Milky Way layer around, and then we're going to go ahead and blend them. I'll show you how to make it a little more seamless. To move the Milky Way layer, I'm going to go Command-T on Mac. That's Control-T on a PC. And we're just going to drag this up into place. Now, if you're finding that maybe your Milky Way shot is a little bit off, this is not bad, but I think it technically would have been about over here a little bit more. And I like that composition better anyways. So if you wanted to do that, yes, it would be better to just have the right image that you shot on the field. But I know that most of you guys that are doing this are probably going to be working with situations that aren't just absolutely perfect. So I'll show you how a few different options to move things around to get the Milky Way where you want it to be. You can see the main problem here is that I just don't have enough data on the left side, and I have too much on the right, so I'm losing some on the right. So put the Milky Way where you want it. You have two options. Option one is to just drag from the corner. You can do this a little bit, but as you go too far, the Milky Way starts to get stretched out. I generally try and avoid doing this. Or you can hold shift, and click and drag. Now that will scale the image in both directions, so you're just making the image larger. You're not changing the proportions at all. That is my preferred way to do it. Just like that, I think is looking pretty good. So obviously you did change the focal length just a little bit by making the image bigger. Not a big deal though. I changed it, maybe 2 or 3 millimeters. It's not going to be something that you're going to be able to tell that I changed. When you're done, go ahead and hit enter. It'll load out. Now you can see we've got foreground and we have background. Everything looks good. Now this blend already looks decent, but I'm going to show you how to make it look a lot better. A lot of you guys with your Blue Hour shots, they might be too bright, they might be too dark, they might be too colorful. I'm going to show you the 3-step process that is going to make this so incredibly seamless for you. What you're going to do, select the top layer. You're going to create 3 adjustment layers. Click on this button down here. 3 adjustment layers are going to be curves, they're going to be hue saturation, and they're going to be color balance. Now you'll go down to the bottom layer, hit this arrow, this little box with a down arrow with a slash through it. I don't even know what to call that. When you hit it, you'll notice this layer will get underlined. That means that this curve is only being applied to our foreground layer, which is good because we don't want to touch the sky when we're trying to kind of neutralize these and make them look seamless. Hit that same button on both of your other layers. Now, there's not really an order of operations here of which one you should adjust first. My rule of thumb is to adjust the one that screams at you the loudest. Right now, what screams at me the loudest is the contrast in the foreground and how dark everything is. I don't want the black point to be quite so low. So what I want to do, I want to just increase the brightness a little bit. Don't go overboard with this. A lot of people will say, oh, I'll increase it this much just because I can, but in my opinion, it doesn't look realistic. We want to keep things looking a little realistic here. I like to bring back enough detail that you can tell what's going on, but not too much detail that I think it takes away from the Milky Way or distracts from the Milky Way. Just bring that curve up. Now I'm also going to bring up the blacks point here just a little bit. Now I might create a little bit of an S curve. I'm just going to create this point down. Might bring the blacks up. Let's make this image a little bit bigger. And now we can kind of mess around with the highlights if we wanted. It's not doing a whole lot because there's not a lot of data over here. Somewhere in there looks pretty good. If you wanted to add a little more contrast back, just drop that down. Yeah, somewhere in there I think is looking pretty good. You want to be careful, zoom in and make sure that things aren't getting washed out here. Make sure there's still a decent amount of contrast in there, which I think there is. Yeah, that's looking perfect for me. Now the next thing you will want to be careful of is the saturation. The saturation isn't too bad here, but the one thing I want to note is that down here, it's orange. This probably wouldn't really be orange if I was actually shooting this at night. So I just want to decrease the saturation a little bit. 20 or so points is usually good. Sometimes you need to go further if it's really oversaturated blue. But I think that's looking pretty good. The changes are probably going to be subtle when you look at them on YouTube or wherever you're watching this. But I think that is looking pretty good. Lastly, you can go in and adjust the color balance. When you do this, if the image is a lot of times you'll see an image will be way too blue like that, you'll just want to bring in some yellows. The color balance of mine is already looking pretty good. I like to zoom into the rock here. I want it to be pretty neutral or slightly blue toned. And I don't need to do a whole heck of a lot here. Just a couple points. It's really subtle. Maybe not even that much. Maybe just -1 or +1 on the warmth there. So that's pretty much everything how you blend it. Now I do want to show you guys one more thing. If you do zoom in and you have a little ghosting on the edges, let's go ahead and get rid of that. Will it make a difference if you're posting on Instagram? No, but if you do print your photo, this looks kind of crappy in my opinion. So I'll show you guys how we can easily get rid of that ghosting, which is more present in some spots than others. Select your layer mask here of the layer mask that's masking the foreground or masking the sky out of the foreground. What you want to do here is hit select and mask. And then my personal favorite way to do this, you can try using edge detection with radius of 1 and like smart radius on, hit OK. If that doesn't work, which it didn't on this particular image, go ahead and hit select and mask. The next best way to do it, in my opinion, the easy way here is to just shift the edge. Now, if I shift the edge, it's essentially just going to subtract or add. So you can shift the edge. You don't want to do it so much that it starts to create like pixelation on the edges. You just want to do it enough that it cuts out the haloing. Right about in there is looking pretty good for me. We might be adding a little bit of pixelation over here. Let's just bring that back. And I think that's looking pretty good. So that's just a little quick trick you can use there. If you are experiencing a little bit of ghosting, you can see before is right here and after like that. So we did remove a little bit of that. It's looking a lot better now. Now, at this point in time, you can edit the image however you'd like to edit it. I'm not going to talk about how to edit it. I have other videos on YouTube covering that. But what I would personally recommend doing here is merging all layers into one. So do Command, Option, Shift, and E. That's going to merge all visible. Now you can get rid of these bottom layers. You can delete them. You can hide them, whatever you want to do. And now at this point, continue your edit or save it back to Lightroom so you can edit it in Lightroom, or save it wherever you want to save it to edit it wherever you want to edit it. But this gets you to like that base spot where you have one individual photo. That's kind of where I usually leave my image after I'm done blending it. Alternatively, if you wanted, you could also just start applying some adjustment layers to adjust the sky like we did in the foreground and edit it that way. Again, there's many different ways you can do this. It just depends on what works best for your workflow. Hopefully that's helpful and you can see just how much more detail you can get in the foregrounds. When you do this, obviously the biggest thing is making sure that the blend looks seamless. You don't want people looking at your image to be able to tell that you've blended the foreground with the Milky Way because it just won't look realistic. Using those 3 layers, I have found, will allow you to do absolutely everything that you need to do to make it look seamless. I've blended thousands of photos. I've helped my clients blend thousands of photos, and these 3 layers have got me there 100% of the time. I've never needed to use anything else when I'm working on the blend. Hopefully that makes sense. If you guys have other techniques that you like, or if you have any questions or comments about this video, please leave them down below in the comments. I love hearing from you guys. And I do get back to all of the comments. So if you have questions, I will definitely answer them. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like this video and subscribe. It helps me to continue to grow my channel, to give you more videos that'll help you to improve your photography. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next time. This is Austin James Jackson. Thank you so much.